Coming up on No Pulp, it's officially March and the SEC is running the table. So many exciting games from this past weekend. We're going to break it all down and how it affects your bracketology come March Madness.
So much to talk about, Adam, but I get the chance to get my first ever juicer win. Josh Richardson joining me in the juicer. Got a lot to talk about. We got lacrosse, we got baseball, and we got basketball, all the above on the juicer.
Even though it is March, it is a 45-minute show,
Indeed.
which means we have to touch on a lot of things, and we are going to be diving deep into the crazy, insane slate of lacrosse games we had from this weekend. Number 1 Notre Dame, number 2 Maryland. If you missed it, we got you covered.
And then we'll wrap it with our plays of the week and our final words because it's No Pulp, and it starts right now.
Kansas State has been on fire this year.
Missouri is one of the most fraudulent teams in college basketball.
And it was
They're not going to fire him. He's the best player in program history.
Side to Lawrence for the win! Yes! He got it!
She is the Shohei Ohtani of college softball. This is a team that's potentially going to be a top 10 team in the country.
How you feeling?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
LSU has captured its very first national championship.
It's No Pulp in our CitrusTV studios. Adam, Avin, and Chloe Smarz here with you, breaking down the world of college sports. Chloe, this is our first time doing this show together. The last time we did anything for the station, I didn't have a voice. It wasn't good for me.
I was sweating outside on the quad. It was a really great time.
It was rough out there.
Shout out Adam Gawkin and shout out Carson Fowler.
Shout out Adam Gawkin. Shout out
They're
Carson
missing
Fowler.
a good time here.
Not here with us today, but they'll be on. They'll be on later on. They'll get
Indeed.
another opportunity to
Indeed.
talk some college hoops later on. But we have to talk about the crazy slate of games from this past weekend, and we have to start with number 5, number 6, Alabama, Tennessee, an SEC matchup that everyone had their eyes on. And this game, Bama had a crucial 5-second violation late, Chloe, that cost them this game. Tennessee able to go down, crosses half court, chucks up a 3, it goes in, and Tennessee walks away with a victory.
Yeah, this game, I mean, is what you expected, right? Very back and forth. Number 5, number 6 team, and arguably the best conference in all of college basketball. You talked about it, though. That last minute or so of the game for Bama, because besides that, the other 39 minutes, Bama played a way better game than Tennessee.
And the post-game reaction from this game was insane. Take a listen to what everyone had to say.
I'm going to take most of the blame in the last 30 seconds. It's on me. I subbed our bigs out to get the rebound before I should have. That was on me, and then I had a chance to call timeout. The coaches have been called timeouts on the underneath of the bounce play. And at 4, I should have called it.
I said we know what we're built for. We know who we are. This is what we've done every single day. Don't question what it is. I don't care if we're down 20. I don't care if we're up 20. You stick to the program, man. That's what we've been doing, man. It's in our blood. It's who we are. And that's how we got to keep going.
Tennessee, obviously enthusiastic, as you should be, beating the number 1 scoring offense in the country in Bama.
Yep.
But Nate Oates obviously talked about it. He puts a lot of the blame on himself. But to me, in these big pressure situations, a lot of it has to come down to his players. It's a great coaching move to put the blame on himself. But Bama played the better game. Yep. And I think that's a hard loss for if you're a Crimson Tide fan to know that they played the better game on the afternoon and they still walked away in the final seconds of this game. And now the SEC tournament implications, now what?
I mean, even when you think you know who the top teams are in college basketball, in the best conference in college basketball, everything is out of whack. It just depends on the day. So despite the fact that Alabama played a good game, Grant Nelson, one of the best players on this team, only 7 points. He had 12 rebounds, came up with some clutch boards late. But it really was the Mark Sears show, Chloe. And he had 24 points in this game. He's been the guy for them all year. But at the same time, at the end of the game, when they're struggling to even just get the ball in bounds because you know he's been hot all day and that's where the ball's going to be going, you need another player. You need to get someone else open. So I appreciate the fact that Nate Oates, the head coach, was able to put a little bit of the blame on himself. But at the end of the day, you're right. He's not out there. It's Mark Sears. It's everyone else on that Alabama team. And ultimately, they couldn't pull through. And Jemai Mashack with that tough 3 to secure the win for Tennessee. I mean, he only had 11 points this one, but that's what you got to do when you're clutch in the SEC.
Yeah, Mark Sears, 24 points, you mentioned it. He was brilliant to me in this game. Brilliant from the perimeter as well. Also was able to drive to the rim. He shot 9 of 24 from beyond the arc. I mean, can't really ask much more from him. But when I look at this game, obviously Grant Nelson, you talked about him. That foul with about 30 seconds left, it then led to a 3-point play for the Vols. And then you had another foul during a free throw attempt, and then the ball's tied up in a prime position, then the shot clock violation. It is that small window of time that can change a game and ultimately can change the season if we're going to talk about the SEC standings and what that means.
Right. I mean, that is the type of situation late in the game in this conference right now, and you can see all of the rankings next to these teams. I mean, this conference is so stacked, it's probably looking like it's going to be a double bid league going to March Madness. Number 1, number 3, number 6, number 5. I mean, it really is nonstop. And if you're Alabama and even Tennessee, who we know at some points has slipped, I know there's questions about.
At one point was the number 1 team in the country.
Right, and I know there's some points in the season where Rick Barnes' crew throughout the years have shown that they ultimately fall short. Both of these teams got to clean things up before the tournament starts.
And it will be interesting to see the last 2 number 1 seeds. It's really like Bama, Houston, and now Tennessee in the mix. So we'll see how that plays out. But to another high-stake SEC showdown, number 12 Texas A&M versus your Florida Gators, the number 3 team in the country, down in Gainesville. And the Gators, they chopped down the Aggies, 89-70. For A&M, 4 straight losses. Adam, this is significantly hurting their SEC and NCAA tournament seedings. To me, though, I don't know what you think about this, A&M is just still a tier below the top teams in the SEC. I don't know what you think about that. I'll hear you talk about Florida this whole show.
I've been begging our producers for the past 2 years to let me talk some Florida Gators basketball on this show. And Chloe, I need to talk to our audience here because I need to tell everybody what I've been saying to everyone else here at this station for the past few months behind the scenes. There are 3 teams, I think, in college basketball right now that I would give a 100% chance to win the national championship. Duke, Auburn, and Florida. There are only 4 teams in the country that have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. Those 3 teams and Houston. It is literally those 4 teams. They are an upper echelon above everybody else. And even when you take a closer look at the SEC, yes, I have my Gators bias. Yes, I have watched this team closely for years. But when I tell you, as a Gator fan who has seen the ups and downs, and yes, I am publicly admitting to the bias here, this is the best Florida team since 2018 when they went to the Elite 8, and as good of a team as a team that went to the Final Four in 2013 with Bradley Beal and Billy Donovan as the head coach. I mean, Todd Golden has his team in perfect shape. You see Will Richard, 25 points in this game. A 19-point win against the 12th best team in the country is great. And this is the same Florida team that went on the road to Auburn without 2 of their starting players and beat Auburn in that game. Yes, they've had a couple of crucial losses this year. But if you look at Texas A&M, and yes, I will eventually get to Texas A&M.
I'll get to A&M because you're on a Florida rampage right now.
They are a step below, and it's because they don't have that depth. The teams at the top do. Florida, Walter Clayton, Will Richard, Thomas Haw, Ruben Chinaleu, Elijah Martin, Alex Condon, Denzel Aberdeen, and Micah Logden. That is 9-10 guys deep. Texas A&M does not have that. In this game, they didn't have a 20-point per game score, and the number 12 team in the country, if you're the Aggies, you're not going deep in March if you do not have a player that can take over in a game.
When I look at the season for the Aggies, obviously they came into this year with a lot of expectation. They were supposed to be one of the most premier teams in the country. And when you look at, I kind of look at a season ago, right? In the middle of February or so, they went on like a 5-game losing streak. They were able to pick it back up towards the end of the season.
Right.
But now they're in even worse timing because now they're losing at the time where you need to be hot, and they're not, which is not good for the Aggies. Great for your Florida Gators.
Oh, it is great for my Florida Gators. And what else is great for the world of college basketball is the play of Juju Watkins and Lauren Betts, 2 of the premier stars in college basketball right now. There was a lot of worry where Caitlin Clark leaves, Angel Reese leaves. Who are the stars? Is women's hoops going to be able to stay at the top? And they put on a show this weekend. UCLA and Lauren Betts, they go on. She has a double-double 8 times in the last month, and Juju Watkins drops 30. This game was unreal.
I want to say one thing before we actually go into this game. It was great to see a sellout crowd in a Saturday night in LA.
It was awesome.
Between 2 of the best teams in women's college hoops. As a fan of women's sports, you can't really ask for much more. But to start off this game, what really kind of showed me how this game was going to play it down was that Juju Watkins had a 3-point shot to start off this game, and it was the exact same way that she started off the game against UCLA earlier in the year. And so many questions. Why can't UCLA beat USC? And I have no definitive answer for you besides the fact that USC is UCLA's kryptonite. Juju Watkins against UCLA averages 33 points per game. And she is obviously the Juju Watkins effect. We talked about it. She just signed an NIL deal with United because her middle name is Skies, because she is absolutely electric. I love what Juju Watkins has done for the sport of basketball. You mentioned like Paige Beckers, obviously another one, and Caitlin Clark coming out of last year, but Juju Watkins, 30 points. Kiki Rice, I mean, not a bad game for herself, but when you have someone putting up 30-plus points, UCLA really had no shot.
Look, I think it's important to talk about Lauren Betts a little bit here as well. I mentioned she had her 8th double-double in the last month. She is a premier player in women's college basketball. But 11 and 11 for her when you're the tallest player on the court, and almost every game you have, you're dropping at least 20 and 10 or something in that area. I mean, you got to be able to do a little bit more. And I don't want to say that she shrinks in these big games, but there is a little bit of that. And I think if in one game against USC, she had a similar game to the one that Juju Watkins has every time that they face off, maybe UCLA comes off with the win.
Well, let's stick with women's hoops, and let's go to another shakeup coming from the top 25. Number 3 Notre Dame suffering a second consecutive loss, falling to the number 24 team in the country, the Florida State Seminoles. 86-81 the final from South Bend. It's the first time, Adam, that the Irish have lost back-to-back ACC games since 2021. That loss now opening up the ACC, because now NC State and the Fighting Irish are co-champs of the ACC. However, NC State, because they beat the Irish earlier in the season, does get the 1 seed in the tournament. But now Notre Dame's fate, not necessarily being the 1 seed. Do you have any concern over that and how their run's going to be now?
Look, I do think there is some concern. Coach Ivy hasn't been to the Sweet 16, past that, as her time as a head coach. Who I'm not concerned about are her players. Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo are 2 of the best players, not only in the ACC, but in the country. So I do have faith in her players' ability to pull out a win. I mean, we've seen it multiple times this year, but unfortunately her teams just have a little bit of a track record of not performing when it comes to that time where you need to capture a win. They were the 1 seed, then they fell, then they got back to the 1 seed, and then they fell again. But I don't want to talk about this game, and I know the implications for Notre Dame are crucial. 0-2 in back-to-back ranked games against NC State and Florida State. But the star for FSU, and I saw this player live when I got to go down there and film that game for CitrusTV. Taniyah Latson is the leading scorer in the country, the most underrated player in women's college basketball. She is unstoppable.
She had no threes in this game as well, and still
that's what she
up.
does. She's one of the smallest players on the court, and she goes past everybody. Nobody can stop her. And even against a team like Notre Dame, as good as they are defensively, as many players as they have, 23 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds for Latson, gives the Seminoles the victory. A really impressive upset.
I also want to talk about Michaela Timpson, because she is someone that does a lot of the dirty work to get the job done for Florida State.
Sure.
She had 22 points in this game, 17 rebounds, 6 of those offensive. So great day for her. Florida State, not gonna lie, one of them hotter teams as of late, coming from the bottom of the top 25 rankings. I don't think Notre Dame is anything to worry about. Obviously, they just played number 25 Louisville earlier today, and they looked as dominant as ever.
And it's not a great look when the players who are supposed to be your 2 best players, Hannah Hidalgo and Olivia Miles, aren't even on that full screen under Notre Dame. But we got a lot more coming up on this show. Chloe Smarz here, trying to get a win of her own, the first one in her career.
Let's see if I can do it.
In the Juicer. Let's see if she can do it against our guy, Josh Richardson. You don't want to miss it. Stick around. It's no pull.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
It's time for the juicer. Adam Avin, Chloe Smarz with some noises there, and Josh Richardson.
I'm just so
over
excited,
here
Adam Avin.
On
Don't
No
fight me
Pulp.
yet.
We got somebody trying to get their first juicer win and also a juicer win in
Have
his
you ever won in
juicer
the juicer?
debut.
This is my first time.
First time.
Oh, yeah.
This is a big episode,
Okay,
so let's
fire.
jump right into it. And Chloe, you're my co-host today.
Yes, thank you.
Not Adam McGahan, so I'm going to start with
Thank you.
And we're going to go to a sport that we haven't talked about much this semester, which is college baseball. So I want to hear from you. What college baseball player will win the Dick Howser Trophy, which goes to the best player in college baseball?
I've been waiting to talk about college baseball and college softball this entire semester, so I'm going to be so excited about this pick.
All right.
Jace LaViolette from Texas A&M, outfielder. Not only, Josh, is he the #1 collegiate prospect in MLB pipeline, but he is the best player in all of college baseball. So it only makes sense that the best player would win the best award. He is the best pure hitter in the country. I'm going to give you all these stats that are actually going to blow your mind. As a freshman, he was the most impactful freshman in the country. 21 homers, 63 RBIs in SEC conference, might I ask. That is the hardest in the country. He led the league with a .835 slugging percentage, then followed the year after with 29 homers and 78 RBIs. To start off this season, opening weekend for the Aggies, 3 homers.
All right, Josh Richardson, can
Buddy
you get that?
can hit the baseball.
Chloe, the last time I checked, they don't give out the award for the best player in college baseball for other years past.
But
And
he's
you wanna
gonna
talk-
be the
you wanna
best
talk-
player
You
this
want to
year.
talk about how he's such a pure hitter?
Yeah.
Why is he hitting a robust 214 so far to
Season,
open
by
the
the
year?
way, has just started. We haven't
All
gotten
he
to
does
see
is
play
just
yet.
walk. You're not going to win
Because
National
he's
Player
a
of the Year
great-
to walk. Merrick Houston, shortstop at Wake Forest. This is a guy who can slug with the best of the best. He's hitting .465 this year. His on-base percentage is 547. He's got 5 homers this year to go along with it. Wake Forest is a top 15 team in the nation.
So are the Aggies.
I've seen this guy play with my own eyes.
One game short of
I've
national
seen him
championship
play
a year ago.
with my own eyes. This isn't a team award. This is an individual player award. The bat speed is there. He's a 5-tool player. All he does is hit the ball. This guy is going to win the best college baseball player in the nation.
All right, both compelling arguments here, and as the biggest baseball knower here, I'm just joking, I'm not at all. And so because of that, I'm an analytics and a statistics guy. And even though you need to look at the year that is currently going on and what is about to start happening, the best player in college baseball coming into this year is Jace, who you said, Chloe. So I'm going to go with Chloe Smarz here for the first point.
Love that.
And I'm going to come to you again here now for the second question as well. And we're going to flip sports. We're going to lacrosse, the men's side. Which team so far has exceeded your expectations the most this year?
I'm going to go with Army, and there's an argument to have here. Obviously, from a year ago,
They were a top 5 team in the nation last year, Chloe.
but my thing about Army was from a year, they actually finished here, 15-16 to finish off the season. But they come into this season with one of the most experienced teams, oldest teams in the nation. It was kind of curious to me to see how would they play off to start the year. And what really has blown my mind about Army is that they have a freshman in Braden Fountain who is top 10 in the country in points, assists, goals, and the entirety of this country. They are off to a 5-0 start in the year. They have blown out every single team. Outscored opponents 71-24 against Yale Olympicus test season 14-3. Gunnar Fellows ultimate Swiss Army knife for the Army Black Knights.
A lot of big wins there for Army. Josh Richardson,
You want to talk about biggest surprises and exceeding expectations? Give me Fairfield, the Stags, in the top rankings, in the Inside Lacrosse rankings for the first time in 8 years. 2017. Over the last 4 years, Fairfield has gone 22-32, starting off the year 5-0. This is a team that in the CAA could absolutely run the table if given the opportunity. I mean, there's no one thought about them to begin the year. They're in the top 20. You know how hard that is to do in college lacrosse with so many great historic programs? No one thought about them. They haven't just exceeded my expectations, but everybody's. Fairfield, this is the team.
You know what? I actually do understand both those arguments very well, Chloe, but when I do think of expectations being exceeded,
Think about that for the next question, too.
I'm thinking of a team that you might have not expect to be ranked, a team that makes a jump into the standings. Josh Richardson,
just give it to him.
You get the 2 points there. He takes the 1 point lead, which means no bonus question. This last point is going to be worth 3 points. And Josh Richardson, as our guest, you get the first opportunity to give your answer for this question. And we're going back to basketball where we started our show. We talked about a lot of teams so far already, but which men's basketball team has had the most surprising year so far, would you say?
I
for
think
3 points.
There's only one correct answer.
No, there isn't.
Yes, there absolutely
isn't. But
it's the
continue.
team that just won their first Big East title in over 30 years. Give me St. John's. Last year, 11-9 in conference play. Rick Pitino has completely turned this team around from when he originally took it over. From 2015 to the time that Rick Pitino got there, St. John's had 2 seasons above 500 in the Big East. That's an 8-year stretch. They're 17-2. That's incredible. They're in the top 5 in the AP poll. This is one of the best teams in college basketball. St. John's is not going anywhere as long as Pitino is here. This team has surprised everybody. Nobody thought that they were going to be this possibly good, especially with how UConn started this year. This is the team in the Big East.
I'm a big fan of St. John's. I talked about them on No Pulp before, and I think they're doing a great job. But if we're talking about teams that have surprised you, Michigan. Let's look at Michigan from a year ago. They were literally so deep in the hole after the Juwan Howard era. 8-24 in 2024, one of the worst seasons in 60 years, finishing dead last in the Big Ten. This year, the number 2 team in the conference. Not only that, at one point they were riding a 5-game win streak. They had wins over then number 22 UCLA, a 10-win Washington team. They beat a Purdue team. Number 2 team in the Big Ten, 22-6 record, 15th best team in the country. This is a Michigan program that in the preseason was favored to be 9th best in the conference and have exceeded every single person's expectations. Dusty May has transformed this program. So now they have people thinking that Danny Wolf is going to be a first-round draft pick in the NBA draft. Michigan, night and day from a season ago. I know St. John's,
Chloe,
I like them a lot.
Last year was a fluke,
but you
a lot more than
surprised.
this year was a surprise. In that same time frame that St. John's had 2 seasons above 500 in conference, Michigan had 1 season below.
We got Josh Richardson bringing the fire, Chloe Smarz
They're
arguing
both good
back.
picks. I'll give you that. They're both good picks.
Look, I really do love this.
For the last 10
look,
years.
I really do love this. But to me, when I'm looking at the team that has surprised me the most so far, Michigan fired their head coach, brought in new players. It's a new roster. St. John's brought in Rick Pitino, who in every year 2 that he's ever had has led his team to a 20-win season. I love St. John's. Yes, they've surprised me.
That's unbelievable.
But that
is unbelievable.
Bringing in Dusty May from an FAU team that made the Final Four proves how good of a coach he is. Chloe Smarz gets her first win in the Juicer. Michigan,
Don't worry.
you brought. Hey,
you have 2 more years here.
Let's take a look at the Juicer standings if we can. Here we go. Chloe Smarz plus 2 point differential.
Go.
Josh Richardson. Hey, we'll see. Maybe if you still have a chance to get into the Juicer standings in the tournament. But hey, it is your first time here. You're one of my good buddies. I didn't want to see you go out like this, but look, Chloe Smarz just brought her A game today.
Thank
All right,
you,
Chloe, I'm proud of you.
I really appreciate it.
I'm proud of you too, my friend. You did a great job. Welcome.
You're not coming over for poker.
Oh, no gambling. We don't advertise that. All right, we'll be right back. Going into some bracketology. Who's on the bubble? Who's getting into the tournament? Who's going to be out? Chloe and I will discuss. We'll be right back. It's No Pull.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
but I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
Welcome back to No Pulp. Chloe Smarz, Adam Avin with you, talking about some men's hoop bracketology. We got our bubble here. Obviously, we're going to talk about, there's some teams that know exactly what's going to happen. An actual bubble.
Great
we have
job.
Some teams that actually know what's going to happen to them. Either might win the conference, but we have a few teams, these 16 according to Joe Lendari's ESPN bracketologist. 4 teams, Adam, that we think are going to be in. 4 teams, obviously, last 4 out. I'm going to start off with you. Out of these 16 here, though, who do you think is the first team automatically that, in your mind, without a doubt, gets into the round of 68?
All right. Well, look, I think there's a lot of options with the team that we got on here who Lenardi says are on the bubble to get in. But I'm going to go with the Razorbacks out of Arkansas. And look, I know they started off the year rough. Them in conference play, you can see right there, the Razorbacks in my bubble there. And it's because of the way that they have bounced back as the season has got on. Coach Cal brought in all those Kentucky transfers over. They started off bad in conference play, but they went over, they beat Kentucky, spoiled his return to Rupp Arena. They beat Missouri, 2 top 25 teams, but they also have lost to all those other SEC teams that we talked about at the beginning of the show. So that's why this pick is a little bit confusing to me. But I think when you look at the SEC and just how strong they are as a whole, and you can see some of their wins and losses right here. They lost to Tennessee, they lost to Florida, they lost to Bama, and they lose to Auburn. I mean, again, we talked about at the beginning of the show, those upper echelon SEC teams. But I think then when you look at their other losses and you compare them to the rest of college hoops as a whole, I think people are the committee specifically is going to look at Arkansas and they're going to say, you know what, Coach Cal, your guys have enough quality wins outside of the SEC more than other conferences, and those upper echelon teams in the SEC are really difficult to play against, which is why I think Arkansas ultimately sneaks in on the committee's behalf there.
I like that pick.
Yeah.
It's very complicated though, right? Like some of these teams, you got to go down their whole resume. There's some things that are good and some things are bad. And you're going to have a lot to say about my pick.
All right, who you got?
I got Indiana. I got the Hoosiers. I originally was going to say Texas until I looked at...
Their coach is quitting on them.
I'm a big Trey Johnson fan, then realized that Texas has not been playing well as of late. But let's talk about Indiana. This is a team that has had a late season surge, winning 4 out of their last 5. And I talked about it at the top of the show. The most important thing on this time of the year is playing your best basketball now. And I believe that Indiana is doing that. Sure, they had a significant win over Washington. I know you're going to say to me Washington is the worst team in the Big Ten, and I completely understand that. However, in this game, what Indiana has been doing poorly all season, they have been doing well as of late. When they played Penn State a few days ago, they're not the best three-point shooting team, but in that game, they shot 66% from 3. This is a Hoosier team, by the way, that is just 500 in the Big Ten. Just 2 games... 500 in the Big Ten, and just 2 games shy of a 20-win season. That's exactly where you need to be for the majority of part to get in. You're laughing at me because I know you're going to roast this pick. But to get into go ahead. What are you going to say?
You know, I'm the analytics guy. I love that you're bringing this. I love that you're bringing the stats to me right now, and you're giving me the proof of this team as of late. But I just got to say this. Indiana has lost to Iowa and Northwestern and Illinois, who got absolutely demolished by the Duke Blue Devils. I mean, some of these teams that they're playing against just aren't serious. Yes, they've racked up some good wins late. Actually, that win against Michigan State that they had a couple weeks ago shocked me because Michigan State is also one of the hottest teams in college hoops right now and at the top of that conference. But look, do I think they're on the bubble? Yes, that's why we're having this conversation. But do I think that they're the question is definitely getting in? I don't know if I can say that.
2 more remaining games. They have Ohio State, which I think they could win, most likely. Sure. If they win those, then they're a 20-win team, and that's kind of
they're right there.
It goes. But let's talk about a team that you 100% think is not getting in the tournament. Who do you think?
Right. Well, this one is difficult for me because as a college basketball fan, there are some times where you can't picture a team not being in. Yeah. A 68-team tournament.
Especially like a team that you're about to say.
And this one, the North Carolina Tar Heels. Yeah. I think for me. I think for me right here, it's difficult because Hubert Davis's team just hasn't come together. And with the expectations that they've had, with how they've performed over the past couple of seasons, has there been a more disappointing team, Chloe, in all of college basketball this year than the Tar Heels? I mean, you could definitely make the argument. I mean, respectfully, they've had an easy conference schedule. They've lost to every single good team they have faced. They lost to Duke by 17. We've never seen a lopsided Duke-North Carolina game like that in recent history. They lost to Clemson, arguably the only other good team in the ACC. And then out of conference, they lost to UF, they lost to Auburn, they lost to Michigan State, Kansas, and Alabama. Kansas no longer ranked, but they were ranked at the top of the country when they did play earlier this year. The rest of those teams still going strong in the top 10. You can't be a serious team and play in March if you can't beat those top teams.
Are you not concerned that they have a 5-game winning streak? The hotter they get?
No, because this 5-game winning streak has been against some of the worst teams in their own conference. Yes, you want to rack up those wins because at the end of the day, the committee, you know, we can even talk about Indiana. They're going to reference the win total there. Like if they're a 20-win team, it's going to be hard to make the argument not to put them in. North Carolina still ranked 39th in KenPom. It is a possibility that they do sneak in there, but I really don't think that they're going to have the opportunity to get in purely based on the fact that conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten are going to have and try and get so many teams into March Madness this year, maybe double digits from both of those conferences. I'm not so sure the ACC is going to have enough bids for North Carolina to get in the tournament this year, just with the wins that they couldn't rack up.
It's weird to see like the big blue bloods that we know.
Right.
It's the UNC, it's the Kansas, it's the Duke. That's what we grew up on.
Even a team like Indiana with such a storied history, Villanova, and we're not even mentioning them right now, is still in our bubble over there. I mean, it's crazy to think that some of these teams could, it's crazy that some of these teams could miss. But Chloe, who's your team that you got missed in the tournament? Because although I might disagree with Indiana, I think I'm going to agree with this one.
We're going to the Big Ten. We're picking Nebraska here, and Nebraska has lost 3 straight games. I talked about, getting hot at the right time. They're doing the complete opposite, and they have not been having a good end to their season. A nail-biter yesterday to Minnesota. And it just seems like this is a Nebraska team that cannot close out a full 40 minutes of basketball, kind of like the team that we broadcast from. Not a dig there.
Oh,
but
come on.
Going into March Madness in the conference are the most important thing. Like I mentioned, getting hot at the right time. And Nebraska struggled as late. They lost to a number 15 Michigan team, lost to a number 16 Maryland team, 2 teams that we've talked about earlier in the show that are building momentum. Just a 17-12 record on the year, 7-11 in the Big Ten. And Saturday's loss, by the way, big blows in terms to their resume because that was a quad 3 loss for Nebraska. And what worries me about Nebraska and why I don't think they have a shot again is their perimeter game needs a lot of work. They allowed Minnesota to shoot 10 of 21 from beyond the arc while answering merely just 4 of 16 from shooting.
So many losses.
Look at all these losses, and they're all to ranked opponents, which is my biggest concern from Nebraska. Their resume is very, very weak. In my eyes, there's not even a shot that Nebraska gets into the tournament. I understand they're still in the bubble for other reasons. But Adam, I know you like stats. They are the 172nd best scoring offense and 155th scoring defense in the country. That doesn't belong in the tournament.
Look, I purely don't want a team that is that bad at scoring the basketball in March Madness purely off of entertainment. And, but you can even point to the fact that defense wins championships, and the reason they're losing to a lot of these top teams is that these other teams that might be more talented than them, they cannot stop any of these teams. So we talk about UNC losing to a lot of those other ranked teams, and I think their losses are a little bit better than Nebraska just because the teams that they're playing are just insanely good, at least those top 10 teams that they've lost to. Nebraska, I think, is also going to be in the outs here because some of those other ranked teams they're playing against have been easier ones, and they can't pull away with a win.
It's a bit frustrating, though, for Nebraska because they have days where they're very good, and they have days where they're really bad, and the inconsistency of that,
can't happen in March.
It's no fit for the teams of 68
Not at
for
all.
March Madness. But coming up here on No Pulp, we're going to go to the turf, and we're going to take a look around the world of men's lacrosse, top 25 matchups all over this weekend, and we'll break it all down. Stay with us.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Adam Avin, Chloe Smarz here with you. We're almost wrapping up shop here on No Pulp, but before we do, we're going to go to another sport. This is maybe one of the craziest No Pulps of the semester just because it is extreme crossover season.
We've got baseball, we've got basketball,
right.
and now we got men's lacrosse.
So many sports are happening, and that's exactly where we're going, Chloe. Maryland and Notre Dame, the Terps, get the win over the Fighting Irish by 1 goal. That game was a thriller that I don't think a lot of people maybe would have expected to be a Maryland win before the season started.
I would agree with you, but I also agree in the fact that no matter what the outcome of this game was going to be, obviously it was a close game, so this doesn't really matter. These two teams are going to be there in the postseason. They are the top
it's a national championship
best
rematch.
teams
Right.
in the country,
Yeah.
and Notre Dame came out fast in this game. Maryland, for the first half, was playing catch-up for the majority of the time. Chris Kavanaugh, Jordan Faison, getting in the action early for the Irish, and Eric Spanso for Maryland was playing catch-up, trying to put Maryland on his back. Then they get into halftime, and their head coach, John Tillman from Maryland, asked his players, how would you grade your first half performance? And they said, C. Very honest. It was a weak first half, and they came back out after and flipped the whole switch. They came out of the break. They had some face-off issues in the first half, and they doubled Notre Dame's total of 3. Bryce Ford came back-to-back goals in quick sequences to put the Terps ahead 6-5. And when I looked at the stats of this game, what really blew my mind is that I don't understand how Notre Dame didn't win until you take a look at Logan McGahan, the goalie for Maryland, 16 saves on the day.
Not only has he been great all year, but talking about coming up clutch in a matchup like this against the defending national champions in a national championship rematch and a rival in Notre Dame. Shout out Eric Spanos for that mustache, by the way. I mean, that is awesome. But he is one of the best players on this team and a big reason why they ended up winning this game. And you look at a lot of the players that Maryland lost this year. Ajax Apatello no longer with the Terrapins, and they were still able to come up with this victory. That just shows how good of a coach John Tillman is with Maryland. I mean, what a game from them, and every game they've been in this year, 5-0 already to start the season off. A lot of ranked wins. Great team.
43 shots for the Irish, only 29 for Maryland. They still came out with the win.
Right.
Now let's talk Duke and Princeton.
Let's
Dare
do
I
it.
say the Ivy League is back,
Oh,
Adam.
it is back.
Another top 10 battle. Princeton, the number 8 team in the country, going against Duke, the number 17.
Yeah.
15-14, a thriller, solidifying the Princeton as one of the top contenders in all of men's lacrosse this season. A hard-fought battle to the end, Adam. But like I mentioned, the Ivy League, it might be back.
The Ivy League is back, and this was also a win that I don't want to say wasn't expected, especially after...
I didn't think it was expected.
Look, I mean, I didn't think it was necessarily going to happen if you looked at the schedule before the season started. But if you saw the way that Princeton has played in all of their games this year, Chad Palumbo, 4 goals and 2 assists in this game. He has been the best player for them all year, and he has stepped up in a lot of these ranked wins. They have played a ranked team in the top 25 in every single game that Princeton has had so far this year. What a gauntlet of a schedule that they've had, and for them to come away with a Duke team. Yes, Duke has lost a lot of players. Last year was the year that they were expected to win the national championship. Notre Dame obviously ran away with that. Maryland in that conversation as well. And even though Duke has slipped a little bit this year, you would have expected out of all the teams, maybe all the losses that you could have had, Ben Johnston still having a great game for the Blue Devils. But ultimately, if your best players aren't performing to the highest level, you could let a game like this slip through. I just didn't think it was going to be Princeton, but shout out to the Tigers because they have been doing a heck of a job this year.
They beat Penn State, Duke, and earlier today beating UNC. Princeton back on the map, can definitely compete with some of the teams that you're talking about.
Talk about the ACC as well. All these teams
loaded.
Also up here.
Obviously Notre Dame and Maryland, but this is a team in Princeton I think you really need to watch out for. They have played really, really good to start out the year.
Don't ignore those Ivy Leaguers.
Nope.
But we do have to talk about this game last. Johns Hopkins, the number 6 team in the country, gets the victory here over the Virginia Cavaliers, 13-12. Talk about nail-biters for all of these games. And for the Blue Jays here, again, another team that's been in the conversation for pretty much every year they've been a program, but even another team like last year, you talk about Duke being in the conversation. Chloe, Johns Hopkins getting this win, huge for the resume.
Yeah, and it's worse. I actually want to talk about how it's not great for UVA. This is their second straight loss. And they had an embarrassing loss, 14-5, against an unranked Ohio State team just a few days prior. I think for UVA, they need to realize they no longer have any more Connor Schellenbergs. Those days of UVA are in the past. They need to find someone like a McCabe Millen who struggled a little bit in their game against Ohio State, had a better game against Johns Hopkins. Someone also like Ryan Colsey was non-existent in this game against Johns Hopkins, but had a great game against Ohio State, had 3 goals. Those two need to be consistent in order for Virginia to be back on the map and to compete with a Johns Hopkins, a Notre Dame, all these teams on the screen, because these are teams that are going to make it to the postseason. And if you're not getting better now, it's going to be a long, long season.
100%. We got a lot of great teams here. You expect to see a lot of them in the postseason, but college basketball is still going on in that postseason. Coming up real soon, we got our plays of the week and our final words coming up right after the break. Chloe's going to shock you guys with some softball. Stay with us.
Meet Norm. He lives with anxiety, but with the help of this latest innovation from Be Normal, he can be normal, just like everyone else. With the swipe of a finger, you can project happiness, confidence, machismo. Why settle for being real when you can be normal? The Normal Maker, new from Be Normal. This item doesn't really work because there's no such thing as normal. We're all different. What we like, how our brains work. In fact, 1 in 5 of us live with mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Start by talking to someone you trust. And remember, there is no normal.
Wrapping up shop here, Adam, Avin, Chloe, Smarz. Chloe, let's get right to our plays of the week because they were so exciting. I need to talk about them right now. And we start none other than in Maryland, Michigan State and Trey Holloman. We're going to try and get it up on your screen in a little bit. You see it right here. From beyond half court, sinks it, the reaction from Tom Izzo, the rest of the crew. What a performance from Michigan State and from Maryland, also one of the hottest teams. Maryland didn't need to take the shot there. And ultimately, they end up on the losing side. I mean, bad loss for Michigan State.
Great play. Really like that out of you, Adam, Avin.
There you go. What you got?
There's some way I was going to find a way to put softball into this show. It's something I'm quite passionate about. So we're sneaking it in right here with my play of the week. We're going down to Durham. We got South Carolina and the Blue Devils and Duke. Look at this sliding grab here to end the game from the second baseman, Carly Shelton. What a play. By the way, South Carolina would go on to win this game to upset Duke. Tremendous defensive play. Defense wins you championships, Adams. And that play, all-out hustle. Shelton would also go on to homer in this game, and South Carolina would also go on to upset Duke 14-7. Watch out for the Gamecocks this year in college softball.
Well, for my final word, we're wrapping up shop here on No Pulp. I'm talking to you, college basketball fans. That's what we've been talking about all show. Look, we all want our teams to win right away, but let's be honest. When does that really happen in college basketball? If you're wishing for instant success, you're in the wrong place. There are very few coaches who can change, and I mean change a program. Rick Pitino, for example, who at every school he's been at, you heard me say this earlier in the show, has secured a 20-win season in year 2, which is insanely impressive, but also shows that building a culture does take a little bit of time. Developing your players matters in college hoops. In fact, to prove my point even further, the last team to win a title with 3 or more freshmen in the starting lineup in a national championship game, the Duke Blue Devils from 2015, 10 years ago. Winning with young talent is incredibly uncommon. So, if you're a head coach, if you're a head coach of your favorite team is struggling in their first season, give them a break and calm down, because that's not what happens in this sport. Let the players develop over time. That's how you win.
Adam, I like your point, but I'm going to go a little bit more lighthearted here. For my final word, we go to a feel-good story coming out of Lubbock, Texas. A putt of a lifetime for senior student Blake Porter. During an on-court challenge in the Red Raiders loss to number 4 Houston, Porter snuck a near impossible full court putt 94 feet from one baseline down to the other end of the court, and that earned him the greatest news that any college student could ever hear. His tuition would be covered next fall. Porter celebrated the moment with Red Raider royalty Patrick Mahomes as the NFL MVP, surprised him with the video that Texas athletics would be paying for his tuition next semester. In addition, the quarterback said himself and Adidas would make Porter an honorary member of the NIL initiative with Texas Tech called Teen Mahomes. The inaugural class announced in August is 6 student athletes, and Porter said to the Today Show he's not even a great golfer, he hadn't even practiced before the shot, but now he's a viral sensation. This story just proving a prime example, Adam, of the power of athletics, the power of sporting events, and something so small as a putting event can change someone's life.
Look at that. Paying for tuition, that is what you want.
That's my dream.
I wish we would get that too. Adam, Avin, Chloe, Smarz here on No Pulp. What a great show. Thanks to all of our producers, and we will see you next time.